Welcome to Hypnotic Authenticity. My name is Chris. I'm a practical, grounded hypnotherapist. I'm based in Switzerland, and this is a space that I have created to foster a genuine sense of inner settling, a place to harmonize with yourself and bring about the improvements to your well-being that, I don't know, maybe perhaps you thought were literally impossible. So my episodes are an invitation to reconnect with all that is alive inside you, to examine the stories that you live your life by, and to maybe soften the edges of what it is that you believe yourself to be in order to create a bigger, broader, more expansive sense of your personal agency and your personal understanding. So I'm going to be talking about identity, about existence, about self-resonance, self-harmony, about authenticity. And that'll all be wrapped up with a sprinkling of hypnosis or guided meditation to help you settle, to help you align and return to yourself. So if you're ready, take a breath and let's begin. I'm going to talk to you today about self-hypnosis. This is probably the most potent tool, potent technique that I have ever experienced for resolving my own confusions, let's say. If, for whatever reason, you feel out of control in some aspect of your life, if there's a conflict in your life, if you feel as though you're stood at a junction and there are many different directions around of you, all of which have different benefits and different risks, and you're kind of paralyzed, you're stuck in the middle and you don't know what to do. If you feel a sense of emotional overwhelm, if you feel a sense of emotional numbness, if you can't sleep at night, if stuff comes up during the day and it completely confuses you, you don't know how to interpret your feelings. If you feel lost, if you feel rudderless, directionless in life. If you don't know where your inner compass is anymore, if you don't trust yourself anymore, if you're not your best friend and you want to be your best friend, if there's a general sense of uneasiness in your skin, or a very large sense of uneasiness in your skin, if you feel a sense of guilt or shame or confusion, if you don't know what you feel inside of yourself, all of that and a million more things can be resolved through self-hypnosis. I mean, this is life-changing. It can actually save your life. It's extraordinary. And when I come to do the video, it's a funny thing because part of me, you can see, gets very evangelical about it. It becomes very animated. And another part of me is incredibly serene because that's also part of the same experience. And I don't know, I'll try and kind of balance out those two somehow or other as I'm explaining the video. So let's talk about what self-hypnosis is for a start. Because, and this is interesting, if I was to get 1,000 hypnotists in the same room, and I have experienced that, and it is mind-blowing when it occurs. But if you were to get 1,000 hypnotists in the same room and you were to ask them all to explain to you what hypnosis is or what self-hypnosis is, I promise you'd get 1,000 different responses. Personally, my definition of what self-hypnosis is kind of fluctuates, it kind of evolves. And I think the reason for that is because self-hypnosis is not an it, it's an I. It's something that you do to yourself that ends up helping you to relate to yourself. So a simple way of explaining self-hypnosis would be that there is this chattering inner monologue that is going on in your mind that thinks it rules the roost, that thinks it's the captain of the ship. And what you're doing is inviting that to just kind of sit in the passenger seat next to you with its consent in order that the noise level drops so that you can observe the rest of you. All those other little voices that kind of seem to have something good to say, but that speak less loud, and that this chattering part of your mind constantly feels as though it's obliged to edit. Yeah. So maybe that would be one way. It's a sort of a quietening of the dominant voice so that you can start to invite the rest of you to express itself. That's one way to think about it. But for me, that doesn't come close, right? That doesn't come close to the all-encompassing experience that you get. And it's hard to describe that, but let me try. Yeah. So normally, I think people tend to look at their world, at their actions, their thoughts, their feelings, as if everything could be objectified, as if everything could be put on a plate in front of them and viewed and thought about and concluded upon, which means disassociating with it. It means putting it out in front of you as if it's something separate. Whereas, of course, when you're thinking about yourself, you are the thing that you're thinking about. If you choose to view it in this way, then self-hypnosis is a way of abandoning that idea that you are distinct from the things that you are viewing and instead relating to it all. And when I say that, it feels incredibly comforting, which kind of makes me think I'm on the right track. So it's a little bit as if you are re-establishing the information superhighway between your head and your heart and your gut and the tingling sensation in your ankles. It's like you are permitting yourself to be rather than to judge and objectify, so that you feel more whole, more complete, and therefore more inviting to all of you. Does that make sense? As I say, there are a million different ways of describing what self-hypnosis is. And I think that's because each I is different, right? And we're all coming from a particular place at a particular moment with a particular set of objectives and thoughts and feelings and fears. And so the end result fits into that. So everything that I tell you is from my personal perspective, and yours is probably going to be different. Now, let's go on to how can you put yourself in self-hypnosis, because this is the keys to the kingdom in a way. Easiest way, in actual fact, to put yourself into self-hypnosis, unfortunately, is to have already been in hypnosis before. So imagine that you are recalling a wonderful holiday that you had in the past, or an experience where you just felt incredible. I don't know, maybe you were painting, or maybe you were running, or you were conversing with someone and the two of you just got each other. If you want to recall that, because you've had the experience, you can really, really revivify it if you choose to do so. It's not just an intellectual process. You can feel it in your body. You can kind of reestablish everything that you were going through at that moment. Whereas if I simply describe something to you that you've never experienced before, well, you can try and paint a picture in your mind, but it's much harder. Yeah. So in order to go into self-hypnosis, if you've already experienced it in the past, you've already got your rudder, you've already got your direction in mind. So I would heartily recommend that if you haven't experienced it before in the past, go see a hypnotherapist, go see a hypnotist, explain what it is that you're trying to achieve, and let them give you the experience. Because then, forever forwards, it's a million times easier because you know where you're heading. Notwithstanding that, I'm going to give it a go. I tried meditation, okay? I found meditation quite hard because my understanding of meditation was that I was trying to clean my mind in order to let whatever should come up, come up. But my mind was very noisy and my body was kind of a bit disconnected. I was kind of intellectualizing about everything. I was trying to think about everything. And so the idea of quietening my mind was a bit of an oxymoron. It's like, okay, so I have to think about this thing that I'm trying to do, but I'm trying not to think about it in order for that not to occur. But then am I on the right track and am I not on the right track? And Did I turn the gas off? And is the door locked? And, oh, I wonder if someone's going to disturb me, and so on and so forth. Yeah, then the noise would come back. Ironically, once I discovered how to do self-hypnosis, it's now a million times easier to meditate, curiously. So as opposed to that, for me, the ceremony, the methodology for putting yourself into self-hypnosis is focusing intently on one thing to the point where everything else quietens. Now, for you at this particular moment in time, if you permit yourself to receive the answer, then you know far better than I do what the thing that you should focus upon right now is in order to take you there. Okay? So I might ask you to focus on a corner of a wall or the corner of a painting on the wall. I might suggest to you that you focus upon the space between your eyes where there's a certain quietness. I could ask you to kind of look at two things at the same time and focus intently on two things at the same time, and then put your attention a little bit in front of them so that there's nothing there and you're trying to focus on two things, and so your mind has to quieten. But if your mind is noisy, maybe you're not prepared to go down that road because there's a noisiness which is demanding your attention, okay? Or maybe there's a pain in your body. The point is, in order to get into self-hypnosis, the only thing you need to do is focus intently upon one thing. So if there's a certain sadness inside of you, well, you could just focus on that sadness. If there is a screaming pain inside of you, you could focus on that pain if it's not too scary, in order that everything else goes quiet. It doesn't really matter what it is that you choose to focus upon, as long as you focus upon it intently to the point where everything else goes quiet. You could focus on your breathing, okay? But the thing is to choose to engage in a ceremony which you know is going to take you to the point where your mind and body are aligned and still. That's why I say you know better than I do what's going to take you there. Maybe you want to start off by focusing on something in particular. Okay, so let's take as an example, you focus on the space between your eyes. And if I focus upon the space between my eyes, there's not much there. It feels small and large. There's a sense of stillness there. There's a sense of calmness there. And if I focus on that and then I allow my observation to expand, then I can notice my body. I can notice that I'm sitting down. I can notice my breathing. I can notice the sun resting on my skin. I can notice the difference in temperature between my body and that warm sunlight. I can hear the sounds around me. I can expand my peripheral vision to the point where I feel a part of everything. And I have settled myself to the point where I could notice how still my legs are, for example. And I can maybe divert my attention to various parts of my body and observe what's going on. And I'm there. I have stilled my mind. And maybe from time to time there's a thought that comes up, and if it does, then you observe it and you kind of send it to one side. That can work. Let's say that I am obsessed with a particular thought. I'm afraid of resolving something. I'm ruminating in my mind about something. So rather than pushing it away, find the feeling which is attached to that problem, that rumination, that thought process. Find it in your body and focus on that place in your body, and really, really bring your attention to that place in your body. and notice how it feels. Notice its words if it has words. Notice its temperature if it has a temperature. Notice, is it moving? Does it have a color? Does it have a shape? Does it have a sort of a texture to it? And dive into it. Yeah. Equally, that will bring you to a state where the rest of you is kind of forgotten about. Does that make sense? Maybe, let's go to the other extreme. Maybe you've become adept at feeling nothing. Maybe your feelings are somehow numbed. Maybe it became so uncomfortable to feel what you were feeling that you've become an expert at not knowing your bodily sensations anymore. Maybe that has a certain safety about it. In which case, if you can suspend your disbelief, if you can believe in your imaginings for a moment and just focus on my words, focus on my suggestions, kind of work on the principle that what you're doing currently isn't working. And so you're going to try something else to the point where you are no longer imagining it, but you are imagining that your imagination is real. Then focus on the nothing. Focus on the part of your body that is feeling nothing. Focus intently upon it and allow your breathing to share that. Allow your thoughts to share that. And as you're doing that, maybe something shifts. Maybe suddenly a part of you feels a little unusual, in which case, follow that. Or if that doesn't feel right, stay with the feeling of nothing. But just kind of trust your intuition and follow whatever seems to demand your thought or your feeling or your nothing at that moment, to the exclusion of everything else. I think that's enough on the principle of how to place yourself in self-hypnosis, okay? The point is, anything can place you in hypnosis if you attach significance to that ceremony. But the end result is that you find a way of quietening the part of you that thinks it knows everything. And so once you habituate that, once you understand how you place yourself in that way, well, then you can start to bring a sense of intention to that. And so you can find ways to resolve your own issues, to listen to your body, to de-noise the noise, to compartmentalize what seemed everything, to still yourself, to find methods by which you can relax yourself to the point where you can simply fall asleep. I use self-hypnosis as like a 30-minute way to go on a wellness retreat in the beautiful part of the world, okay? I can do that on the train. Imagine that in the train you've got an hour, couple of hours, or you've got 10 minutes on the bus. And the only thing that you're going to do in that 10 minutes is kind of set an internal clock and then say, right, I am going to give myself the gift of reconnection with myself, of restoration with myself. I'm going to give myself a boost of kindness and love and energy because I know I don't need to get off until such and such a stop. You're there in the bus. It's kind of, stuff's going on around you, but you feel safe. You've got your bag or whatever with you, and so you can close your eyes. You can focus on your internal experience. You can use one of 1,000 different ceremonies because you've habituated some way or other to bring yourself to that state of stillness. The noise outside quietens. You can connect and relate with all of you, and you can give yourself permission to be, to rest, to restore, to rejuvenate, to reconsider, to ask all of you for support on something which this chattering part of you is finding difficult to resolve. Yeah, whatever it is. And because this rest of you is so strong, in actual fact, if you set yourself an intention that you're going to do that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, oh my God, it works. It comes, you find a way of, right, okay, it feels like it should be time now for me to open my eyes and reestablish myself in the here and now. And you do. So for me, the end result was an incredible sense of connection with myself, an incredible re-establishment of my inner compass, of getting to know myself, of accepting what it was and is to be myself, a permission to be conflicted, a permission to be, well, whatever I am, a release back to the world. And with that comes an extraordinary sense of freedom, a freedom to simply be yourself. I don't know if that starts to explain to you why I think self-hypnosis is the keys to the kingdom. You can learn so much about yourself. Now, there are certain things that you cannot fix inside of yourself with self-hypnosis, and that's why I do hypnotherapy. So there are times when you may find yourself, for example, in a massive, massive conflict where two or more parts of you all think that they're right, and they will not back down, okay? And so no matter how hard you try, because you're inside the system, they all feel right or they all feel argumentative and you don't know what to do, okay? In which case, then it's good to do hypnosis with someone else, because then you can start to find ways for these parts to renegotiate a better harmony inside of you. But I promise you, the vast, vast majority of things you can resolve yourself and you can harmonize yourself. You can find a sense of congruence inside of yourself. So to go back to what I said at the beginning, you kind of get that sense of control back. You kind of feel capable again. You kind of feel as though you can trust yourself. You kind of feel competent. You have a tool to bring about a sense of emotional stabilization when you choose it. You can actually choose a different set of emotions in the moment that you need it. Imagine that something weird happens during the day, and because you're more attuned through habituation, you understand that when these feelings come up, they have a message, right? But at that particular moment in time, it's not the moment to be dealing with that, right? You have to perform, you're at work or whatever it may be. But you can kind of store an emotional blueprint of that for a little while, and you can think to yourself in a split second, I'm going to dig into that, but later. Yeah, kind of put it over in a corner. And then in the evening or whenever feels appropriate, you can then put yourself in self-hypnosis and you can invite that feeling back and you can ask yourself, now, what was going on there? So rather than this being some sort of volatile way of being dragged from emotion to emotion and reacting, instead you're starting to understand yourself. You're starting to add a gap between stimulus and response. You're actually able to take responsibility for the way that you react. You can learn so much about yourself by inviting that in a state where this kind of chattering part of your mind isn't trying to take credit for everything. It's open as well. Does any of that make sense? I hope so, because this is a complicated subject and I'm trying to express something which you really need to experience, and where your experience is going to be different from my experience. And even more amazingly, because we're always coming from today's now, every experience in the future is going to be slightly different from your experience in the past, but they're all going to be a sense of reconnection with yourself, a sense of coming home to yourself, a sense of belonging inside of yourself. And that's wonderful. Wonderful. You can move mountains with a sensation like that. And then you become still. Then you become at ease with yourself. you become at ease with everything else, because you're starting to accept what you are. Everything else is. And for me, that stillness, that ability to find the peace inside of yourself when you need it, is such a gift. It's such a gift. From that, you see, you can then permit yourself all the extremities of your emotions, because you always know that you can bring yourself back to your core. It means you can push the boundaries on what you think it is to be you. It means that you're no longer afraid to go to the parts of you that felt a little bit scary. I could go on and on forever. You're giving yourself the gift of returning to all of you, and then to allow that sense of what you think is you to meld into all things. And somehow that is so supportive, so integrated, so deeply comforting, because you feel at home. You feel like you belong. You feel like you can trust yourself. You feel like you can trust everything. I don't know, right? Have you tried self-hypnosis? If you have, I would love to understand if anything like what I'm talking about is relatable. And remember what I said at the beginning, self-hypnosis and hypnosis is an I, not an it. So you are setting an intention, you are choosing a ceremony by which you are going to bring yourself to the state of unknowing, a state of connection, a state of inner beauty and external communion, if you want to call it that, a sense of unity with all things. And with that, it's a little bit like diving inside the most beautiful duvet at the moment when you need to go to sleep, and everything just feels right. Except the duvet is your skin, and you are feeling harmony with yourself. Isn't that wild? So it turned out it was more evangelical, more enthusiastic than it was serene. But it's because of the serenity that the enthusiasm is given the expanse to breathe. Yeah, that's another way to look at it. Self-hypnosis is like permitting yourself an expansion chamber. Ha! Think of that. All right, thanks for watching. I hope that's of interest. If it is, please let me know down below in the comments, or find me on the internet, find me on social media, or find my website and send me an email. Let's build a lovely world. Let's build a sense of community. I don't want to do this as a one-way flow of information. I want this to be a beautiful, beautiful community of kindness. But that's just my want. You're able to do whatever you want. And then maybe between the two of us, we decide that actually our wants are all a nonsense anyway, and that we're all following the unity of whatever is larger than us that we don't understand. Who knows? All right. Thanks for watching. Take care. And go check out my other videos, my other podcasts, my blog, my website, whatever you wish. I'll offer anybody, in actual fact, a 30-minute consultation for free. And I can even show you how to put yourself into self-hypnosis. All right. Take care. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If it resonates with you, then follow my podcast. I would also personally be really grateful if you might wish to leave a quick rating. It genuinely helps others to discover the podcast. If you personally would like more guided meditations, you want some deeper insights, you'll find all my links in the description. If you prefer a more visual boost, then you might want to check out my YouTube channel called Authentic Life Hypnosis. And if you're looking to do some deeper work that goes beyond one-way audio, then obviously you're very welcome to reach out. Equally, if you have any questions, I'm here to help. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.